Washington Pod presents EARL Nightingale.
What's the single most important thing on our minds when we're on a long airline flight? Safety or reliability, you might say. But we generally have that in the great passenger airliners. Once assured of reliability, sitting in a plane at the San Francisco airport, getting ready for takeoff to Hawaii, I remember hearing a flight attendant talking over the intercom saying, "This will be a non-stop flight to Honolulu." I'm sure everyone was relieved because there are no places to stop between San Francisco and Hawaii. Her use of the word non-stop was definitely ill-advised in that case. But once we're assured of reliability, the single most important thing on our minds when we're on a long flight is what? It's comfort, isn't it? It's the seat. And the other day, poking through Omni magazine, I came across a stunning ad by Lufthansa Airlines, the German carrier. The ad read, "The human body wasn't designed to sit for 8 hours, or we designed our seat to compensate." The ad went on to point out that in Lufthansa's business class section, they've installed new ergonomically designed seats by Recaro, an Italian company that designs seats for high-performance automobiles. This new seat supports your shoulders, your lower back, and keeps your legs at a perfect angle, all to assure you, the ad went on, that a smooth flight on a Lufthansa plane will also be an extremely comfortable one. I tore out the page. It was a full-page ad, and passed it along to the person who handles our airline reservations. It's been my sad experience that the seats in commercial airliners are the most uncomfortable, the hardest, the most unforgiving, miserable seats in the history of the seating business. After 2 hours in the air, I'm in pain, and despite shifting about in my seat, it's a miserable experience. I find myself standing just to ease the pain in my sitter. Now Lufthansa has installed Recaro seats, perfectly comfortable seats, seats that compare favorably to the new Herman Miller office chair, of which I have 2, and in which one can sit all day long, working in perfect comfort. There are certain things that a human being must do sitting down. When he sits down, a lot of anatomical factors have to come into play, and the people who have addressed this problem best have done very well indeed. One would think that the airlines themselves would have given nearly as much attention to the comfort of their passengers as they have to the maintenance of the aircraft they fly, but apparently that's not been the case. Now, they will probably try to justify this oversight by saying, in the interest of safety, but I say that a seat can be as safe as possible and still be wonderfully comfortable. And I wanted to share this information with you for another reason. It's a classic case of how something can be dramatically and impressively improved in a business in which you feature the same equipment as the competition. That Lufthansa ad about the Recaro seats in business class is going to attract a lot of business flyers, everything else being equal. If you have to sit in an airplane for 8 hours, why not be comfortable doing it? Most businesses are in competition with other companies that sell often much the same product. Despite that, and regardless of the number of years you've been in business, you can still find significant ways to make an important difference to the customer, as Lufthansa proved. Everybody had apparently assumed that if you fly in a commercial jetliner, you have to be miserably uncomfortable for most of the journey. I'd like to point out here, getting back to anatomical factors, that women are more comfortable while sitting down for long periods of time than men are. Men were out running around the landscape throwing spears and shooting bows and arrows, while their women folk were seated about the fire nursing babies and cooking meals. So women have much nicer sitting equipment. But eventually, even women found the airline seats miserably uncomfortable, and apparently everybody just assumed that was a necessary part of flying. Then somebody in the Lufthansa organization got the idea of installing seats famous for their comfort and ergonomic integrity. Voila! An important difference. An important difference. That's what we're looking for when we spend our money for one product over another. Why should the customer invest in our product instead of the competition? How can we make a significant difference? I remember reading a very important line from my friend Roger Von Eck, the expert in creative thinking. He said, "It isn't what you don't know that keeps you from being more creative. It's what you do know." Somehow, in trying to come up with creative ways to make what we do a little better than the competitions, we've had to get past what we already know and tend to take for granted, like those murderous seats in commercial airliners. Everybody just took them for granted. They were a given, even though they were the single most important factor contributing to passenger comfort or discomfort. While my wife Diana and I were in Greece recently, I saw a lot of small 3-wheel trucks darting about. They had the standard 2 wheels in the back for the cargo, but just one wheel like the front wheel on a motorcycle in front. Apparently someone decided that four wheels, something we all tend to take for granted, were not necessary for that particular vehicle. And how about the wheel itself? How can it be changed and improved? When we start thinking in new directions, which is the definition of genius, we tend to challenge everything we presently take for granted and throw out the window for a while all of our comfortable knowledge of how things are or how they should be. Getting back to the seats in airplanes for a moment, it was probably a very bright and persistent salesperson in the Recaro organization who sold that seat idea to Lufthansa. Whoever did it should get a medal. And I think that now that one airline has adopted the seats, the Recaro people had better gear up for mass production as more airlines get in line. Just as we tend to take our product for granted, we tend to do the same thing with our markets. I mentioned Greece a moment ago. The total population of Greece is a little under 10 million people. When you think of selling your product overseas in a country the size of Greece, remember to compare it to the greater Los Angeles area and a market 10 times as affluent. We forget sometimes how many potential customers live in the United States of America, speak our language, and are the most affluent customers on earth. The state of California has about 27 million people. Thousands of companies whose products are sold nationwide could be doing as well as they're currently doing if they had only the state of California and really concentrated on it. How are sales in Greater Kansas City, New Jersey? In this fat, rich country of ours, we have a tendency to skim off the cream, and since it's the richest, most nutritious and fattening cream on earth, to let it go at that. Are there ways we can revolutionize our marketing and reach the people in a new and better way? How can we really reach them in depth? Are we taking our system of marketing for granted? Are there ways it can be improved? Of course there are. I enjoy reading the ads in the magazines to which I subscribe, those ads that show something interesting. They can start us thinking, make us sit down with that notebook and start using the most important force ever to appear on Earth.